The industrial design has been very much about having a really attractive Gorilla Glass on the back, curved glass edges on the front, which is really important because with Android we want you to be able to use all of the swipe functionality. It's super thin and it has a kind of, again, camera coating around the edge, which makes it particularly helpful to hold. 4.7-inch display, 320 pixels per inch, 320 pixels per inch on a smartphone. So the quality of images that you can take, the quality of images that you can see on the handset, watching videos, watching films, watching YouTube is a super high quality experience. It's also rather quick in that it has a quad-core processor. So again, cast our mind back kind of 6 months, you had to be buying a pretty expensive tablet device to get quad-core. Now we have quad-core on the smartphone itself. So it really is a lightning fast experience. I'm not really convinced that it is turbocharged. I'm not a mechanical engineer, but it's very fast indeed. So in terms of accessibility, as you'd expect, it's got dual band Wi-Fi, NFC. It's got a front-facing 1.3 megapixel, 8 megapixel rear-facing camera. It really takes camera photography way further forward on the smartphone, and we'll explain a little bit more about that in due course. In terms of content, it takes us very, very smoothly into Google Play and the developments of Google Play over the last 12 months. So previously we had Android Market. Android Market was very much about apps. We rebranded it as Google Play in the Play Store. That's in order that we can bring different content verticals, so books, movies, and of course music. And those will be added to in terms of TV and magazines over the coming weeks and months. In terms of actual content in there, 700,000 apps, and we've had now 25 billion apps downloaded, which is a staggering volume of apps. Many of you, it's way too young to understand, but years ago I used to say that the global market for computers was like 200 in total. And then when apps came out, it was like, well, you're only going to need 2 or 3. The quantity of apps that individual smartphone users are using is incredible, and the appetite for apps is extremely high. It's a very good monetization technique in that app developers can launch a free app and then have in-app billing as consumers get hooked on feeding coins to flowers and monsters and all of those sorts of things, really adding valuable hours to the day. So that's the Nexus range of devices. Let's look at the software that works on it. And for that, it's Jelly Bean. Jelly Bean we launched in June last year, and it was very much a significant update for Android. Here we brought together the tablet operating system and the smartphone operating system back into one instantiation. 2 or 3 key features came out through Jelly Bean. First seen, notifications. We worked extremely hard to make notifications more intuitive and more usable. You could size your widgets, take actions from notifications. So if a notification comes up and says you've got a meeting with Claudine to go through PR and you're running late, you can tap on the screen and send an instant message from the notification to say you're going to be 5 or 10 minutes late. We'll explain in a few minutes how we're trying to make sure that you're not late through something called Google Now. The keyboard itself, entering text into a device, we've done 2 or 3 things to make that better. First off is being able to type through speech, so voice typing. When we do voice typing, previously we had to be connected to the network because it's a cloud-based service. With Jelly Bean, we made it so it's possible to do it offline. So you can voice type wherever you are. The keyboard itself, 2 or 3 changes to that as well. And this is an animation of typing happening. This is voice typing, just in case that's not intuitive enough. We also added a gesture keyboard so that you could swipe to type. That means it's a lot quicker. It figures out whether you want a space, it checks the pattern that you're typing in, makes typing super quick. And if you're still on a tube, I don't know how many people use the tube in London since you arrived? 2 or 3, yeah. Plenty of room on there, not. So you can swipe to type on there, send your text messages or whatever, whilst on the go. Talking about text. Text leads us to language. Adding languages has been super important to us as well. And we've added 2 or 3 of those through Jelly Bean. Key languages like Polish, Turkish and Greek. And those languages are also available for gesture typing, not just regular typing. So, one of the key things for Android devices through the Google Mobile Services, key Google Mobile service is Maps. Maps has a super cool feature which is Street View. So hopefully those of you who've used Street View, really good. You can go back and see what your old house looks like from when you grew up as a kid. If you're going to a meeting, you can make sure you know where you're going and recognise the building through using Street View. Maybe if you've met someone in a nightclub and they've given you an address, you can actually see where they live before you make that critical decision about whether or not you want to follow up. These things are really important. So Street View is really good, but it's something that is static on the device. Some of you may have seen these devices, which isn't a self-driving car. This is one of our Street View cars. This particular one is going down somebody's drive, by the looks of it. You may also have perhaps been at Stonehenge and seen one of these devices travelling around. And then, even to the extent of the Grand Canyon, we've made these devices smaller and smaller so that we can really get out there and get Street View, get those images through all 4 corners of the Earth. That's very good, but that's Google doing it. One of the things that we try to do with the Nexus 4 is make it a more collaborative venture so that you yourselves can get involved in Street View. And we've done that through the camera. So, we've launched something with the Nexus 4 called Photosphere, or through Jelly Bean I should say. Photosphere allows you to take multi-image panoramic photographs. Those are really exciting things to do, but not a great deal of excitement about that because that was done 2 years ago by particular app developers. So one of the things that we've done with Photosphere is go, instead of just being on a horizontal dimension, is to take it so that you can go into 3 dimensions. But to take it into 3 dimensions in a way that you can do on the move, single-handed, really easy, it's not a complicated process. The device walks you through it, you point and hold the device, and it takes multiple photographs as you slowly move around, and then it knits them all together to create full 360-degree experiences. And these are real photographs taken with the Nexus 4. This isn't an SLR camera with a several €100 lens. This is with the Nexus 4. Works really well indoors as well. You don't just have to use outdoors. You can do your room. If you're decorating your living room, you can do it before and after. Amazing. The other good thing with these photographs is if you take a Photosphere photograph like this, you can upload it into Google Maps, and that can become an image accessible by billions of people through Street View. So, Google is pretty synonymous with search. So let's talk about that for a moment. With Jelly Bean, we brought a new version of search out, which is voice search, completely redesigned. And when the question is specific at the stage we're at the moment, then the device will also talk the answer to you in your language. Many of the answers that are now coming out through voice search come from something which we call our knowledge graph, and that's our project that we're running inside Google, not just to provide you data, but to provide you factual answers. So if you ask the question about how old is Brad Pitt, for example, which somebody like me in their early 40s often does to try and figure out why is that possible, you want to know his date of birth. You don't want to have a web link to Brad Pitt's blog site, and there's nothing to see on Brad Pitt's blog site either, so that would be a waste of time. So you want a factual answer, you don't just want a web link, and that's something we're producing through the knowledge graph. And of course, if you're on the move, then having it through voice is much more interactive and much more important to you. So, With Jelly Bean, we took things one step further and we launched something called Google Now. Google Now is about providing you with information, the consumer with information, before they actually ask for it. You know, getting that piece of information at the right time, at the right place. So for example, Google Now, in terms of access, you swipe up from the bottom of the screen, and Google Now will look through your calendar, look at what calendar appointments you've got, look at what you've searched on Chrome, look at emails that you might have. An email might say that you're due to be on a flight at 9 o'clock that evening. It'll check out what that flight is. And difficult to believe in the Mediterranean sun that is London today, but if we have more than 16 flakes of snow, no airplanes can land or depart from Heathrow. So Google Now works really well to be able to tell you that your flight's just been delayed and you need to check in for another night in the hotel, thereby driving the UK economy, which is very important in a time of austerity. So being able to give you exactly what information you want, when you want it, is very important. We've got a couple of examples here. So this is obviously from one of our marketing team because they've got an agency meeting, which is no doubt happening in a restaurant. This will tell you when you need to leave. So if you're going to use public transport, it will give you an option for that. It also figures out where you live, which is quite an amusing thing. After a couple of days of having the device, it figures out that every evening you're in your apartment between these hours and those hours. It will ask you if that's where you live, and then every day it will tell you how long it's going to take to get home, which routes to avoid, and so on. Also tells you about the situation of the transport infrastructure, particularly applicable in London, in that, again, particularly in the winter months, 2 or 3 large leaves from trees and all of our train lines